the movie about the hospital, I was wondering, am I in Sri Lanka or am I in the United States? So let me start with a proclamation. Here it goes. No brain born into this soil be wasted without it being used for the development and prosperity of this nation. So let's do it. Honorable Minister Susil Premajanta, officers and members of the Armed Forces, Vice Chancellor Rear Admiral Jagat Ranasinghe, respected colleagues, and my dear students. I want to share with you my thoughts about a very important and current topic. And the topic is purpose-driven education. So it is my distinct privilege and honor to address this esteemed audience of intellectuals of Sri Lanka and from around the world on the subject of purpose-driven education. Sri Lanka undoubtedly is the home of the intellectuals. We are the most literate country in Asia with more than 95% literacy rate. In fact, we are the envy of even the Western world. Sri Lanka is also one of the most beautiful nations on earth. The cloud-kissing mountains, cascading waterfalls, the lush green mountain slopes, golden sandy beaches, no doubt qualify Sri Lanka to receive that accolade. And even what is even more striking than that are the beautiful minds, beautiful brains that are here in this audience, in the other audience, and in the rest of the country. We are a blessed nation. Our nation is blessed with intellectuals, brains. And some of our brains have done very well here and around the world. If I mention this, all the names, I think I will not be able to get my message to you today because there are so many. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about how we can utilize these brains. We must capitalize on our brain power and bring our country to the higher echelons of those nations who have come to the same levels of success. United States, Japan, China, and many other nations, just to name a few. Every nation has a unique economy based on its natural resources and the human capital. And education system obviously plays a very important role, and the development of the workforce plays a very important role in the development of that nation. So what would bring our nation, or any nation for that matter, to be successful? And the most important factor, undoubtedly, is education. So let me elaborate on a few factors that contributed to the rise of the United States during the last 100 years and what transpired this development of United States to become a major innovator in the world. Of course, you know what I'm going to say. Purpose-driven education. So I used this word before the word education, the word purpose, because the education should have a purpose, not simply learning something, but learning something for a purpose. So let me highlight a few very important contributing factors, which I strongly believe has contributed to the success of the United States. I have lived there for more than 40 years, so I have observed during the last 40 years how the education system developed, changed, and keeps changing. First, education in America is a learning process and not a teaching process. In fact, it is a lifelong learning process. Every year, at my age, I go back to classroom to get 16 hours of continuing education units in order to keep my license. This is true of all the doctors, engineers, lawyers, accountants, everyone. So continuing education also plays a very important role in imparting the young people of the education that they will receive. Higher education is carried out by instructors, not by teachers. If you Google or go to a website of any university, look for the courses, you will never you will never find the teacher for the course is Dr. So-and-so. It's always the instructor for the course. We instruct, not teach. I remember my first day of school with a brand new notebook, new ballpoint pen, sat in the class. My professor, at the time, Professor Wilcox, came to class and said, okay, let's study the first 3 chapters. Your test will be 2 weeks from now. And we waited for him to teach it. Only thing I wrote was the names of the chapters I had to study. I was in 1974. So I realized very quickly that I will have to dance to a new tune. And the process of self-learning got started on that day. Instructor guides the student to learn material by themselves, not from the class teacher, but also from the surroundings, by interaction with other students, being hands-on from outside the classroom. The student is soaked in the entire learning process. Students are encouraged to express their opinions, trust themselves, be open to new solutions, learn to handle unclear and conflicting information, consider things from different viewpoints, seek new information, and review the way they think. Classroom is a place to assimilate skills through open discussion of the subject via a dialogue, not a unidirectional monologue where you receive the information. Students are given problems to solve. Learning is by questioning and solving problems. And it should be done, and it is done individually and by teams. And it is very important to engage the students to work in teams in order to gain their education. In the United States, we call it the problem-based learning, or PBL for short. started about 20 plus years ago. All medical schools today in the United States use PBL as the system of educating the medical students. Along with another process called ISL, ILS, Integrated Learning Systems, where you learn about a subject in light of all the other subjects. You're not simply learning anatomy, you're learning anatomy in light of other fields like physiology, biochemistry, pathology, and various other. So they are not learning this in compartments. They are learning it all together, how one area affects the other. Students acquire skills by actually solving real-life problems, not learning theory. Students appreciate the principles learned in light of actual use, not assumed use, not by plugging values or numbers into a formula. Emphasis is on fundamental reasoning and critical thinking rather than theory and acquiring knowledge. We also have embraced the 21st century methods. Today we extensively use technology. Everything is on the web. Your subject material is on the web. The teacher is narrating his instructions on the web. So the student can learn, he can go to school or classroom, or he can stay home and learn the same thing. And when the student doesn't understand something, he can always rewind and listen to this narration again and again and again until he understands it. When he goes back to the classroom, he can have a dialogue with the teachers. He can say, well, I don't understand this part. I need you to explain that to me. When it is done in the classroom, you know, when the teacher keeps teaching, or in the United States, when the instructor keeps instructing, you may miss something. You cannot stop him, say, go back over and over again, because there are a lot of other students who probably have understood it. So using technology is one of the things that has happened. I have a course, my course, that is on the website. The students have a username, password, they log in, and they learn the material from the web. Second point, education is broad-based. Education is not limited to 2 or 3 subjects. And one of the most important things is the inclusion of liberal arts. Liberal arts are a main component of the American education system. The first 2 years of any degree program is all about liberal arts. If you are in a course to become an engineer, the first 2 years you'll be learning sociology, political science, economics, various other subjects in addition to the subjects that are for that field of engineering. Research has shown that successful inventors and entrepreneurs have a very broad knowledge base. This, in my opinion, is the main reason, more than any other reason, for the technological advancement enjoyed by the United States. The broad-based education, hands down. Third, in the United States, we emphasize skills than knowledge. Knowledge gets old. Knowledge I received in my high school years doing advanced level is now old. Most of that is not the same. So why should I pay so much importance to knowledge because the knowledge itself keeps changing. Instead, we encourage the development of academic skills, where the student learns to learn. Students must learn how to acquire knowledge, not to accumulate knowledge. I see this in young people in America, my students, my employees, my colleagues. They have learned to learn, come up with information, and through that information, provide solutions on things that they have no idea before. The last few years, I have been working with a lot of young doctors and engineers because I'm an advisor in the Texas Medical Center incubator. So I see how they function in their ability to learn things that they have no idea about and use it where they need such knowledge. This is one of the most important and interesting facts in the American system. And I am a case in point. Without a medical background, I am in medical research. Students are equipped with skills to acquire knowledge rather than accumulate knowledge. Students are tested on critical thinking skills, not how much knowledge they possess. There are no knowledge-based questions. Asking students questions that stimulates their mind and testing their ability to solve real-life problems. Fourth is the culture of research that the Honorable Minister talked about. So research in America starts in the kindergarten. Kindergartens are asked to do independent research. Now you might think, what would a kindergartner would do as research? I have two sons. When they grew up, I went through this process. When they were in the kindergarten, they're supposed to write research about their family. What's your father? What's your mother? Where do they come from? Where do you live? What do you eat? So it promotes the asking of questions. They come and ask, what do you eat, Tati? Or what kind of job do you do? So it stimulates them to ask questions. So developing this culture of questioning is obviously, as you all know, is a prerequisite for one to excel in research and become an innovator or inventor. And this is true irrespective of the field of study. Whether you are in economics, whether you are a biologist, medical students is immaterial. Everyone has to do research. Most courses, your instructor is going to ask to write research papers, 2 or 3 sometimes in a semester. So they learn how to do research, and it starts very early in their childhood. Lastly, one of the most important aspects of learning, education, is the development of the culture of entrepreneurship. All American universities have this culture, where the students develop new business concepts, develop products, obtain patents, raise money to start business, write business plans, while they are still in school. Rewarding those students who bring up new ideas and bringing them to fruition is a norm. As I said earlier, in the Texas Medical Center, which is one of the largest, being the largest medical center in the world, with an economy of $87 billion, we have a large number of incubators. And I was fortunate to take Honorable Minister to those various incubators, introduce them to the people who run them, get an introduction, and we are hoping we will mimic this and start a similar incubator in Sri Lanka, in Colombo. And this training brings another interesting point. When the students start a project, which we normally call a startup, is done by teams, not by one person. And it's done by people from different fields. In a typical startup, you will have a medical student, engineering student, economic student, students of various backgrounds who have joined their hands to start this new project. So that brings a richness. It brings the value into the startup, rather than just one person with one focus, with one mindset. It's an assembly of all different ideologies, all different knowledges, all different skills in the process of the business startup. Such entrepreneurship is at all levels in the education process. I think every so often you have heard about the lemonade stands, because sometimes it comes up in news that some little kid is having a lemonade stand in the neighborhood, and maybe they didn't have a city permit, and the police would give some sort of a warning. So, and that is children who are in the 3rd grade. So entrepreneurship starts very early. Once they graduate from a university, who have undertaken the startup culture, who have soaked themselves in the concept of starting business, what do you think they will do? They are going to be the CEO of their company and not look for a job somewhere else. So this is one of the most important aspects of bringing entrepreneurship starting from the elementary school. Now, you, of course, have heard about Facebook, Apple, and so many companies in the United States. These are good examples of the startup. They did that while they were in the university, or some of them not even in the university. So there are a lot that we can learn from the United States. I just mentioned a few. United States is a very interesting country. There are no natives. Seriously, we say there are no natives, but there were few. But when we say there were no natives, what we mean is that the current population are all immigrants, or mostly immigrants. We are from all over the world. There are the white Europeans from England or UK, the non-white Europeans, the Asians, the Africans. We are from all over the world. We have assembled in the United States. It's a melting pot. Along with this immigration, we have brought many cultures and work ethics, skill sets, and various other assets to America. But we have conformed on one thing very quickly. We have conformed on the skill-based education. Most of the people that I work with, I know, other than the ones who are born in the United States, came from some other country, India or China or Pakistan, who were in a different system, including myself. But after we arrived, within a year, our mind has changed, our mindset has changed, our thinking has changed, and we concentrate more of a skill-based learning than a knowledge-based learning. So finally, let me plant a thought in your mind. In the US, when I meet someone at a party or at an event or even in an elevator, the person usually assumes that I'm a doctor. The clue is my brown skin. Someone few years younger looking than me, they think I'm an IT person. Why? Because our good friends, north of us here, have done such a great marketing job. And they have established themselves as smart professionals, especially in medicine, engineering, and IT. You don't have to go too far. Every tech company CEO is an Indian. It's true they are technologically savvy. They work hard for it. But more than that, they set their mind to one thing. They wanted to brand themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, branding is very important if you want to come to the echelons that I discussed in the beginning of my talk. When we think of United States or the Americans, we brand ourselves as innovators. Just about every innovation, maybe one or two less, has been done in the United States. Whether it is in medicine, whether it's in engineering, space science, biology, we innovate. We innovate because of what I just said. Koreans have done it with their electronic equipment, televisions, cell phones, cars, plastic surgery. Israel, with unique advanced weapon systems, and most of you would know about that, and medical devices. Swiss, with precision watches and machines. Germans with their engineering. Chinese have branded themselves for manufacturing, mass manufacturing, and of course, their high-speed trains. So branding is very important for a country to get acceptance as a global leader in a given field. If someone in another country is looking for a product or service, like in my case, sometimes I want to get somebody to build a stent. My mind goes straight to China. I don't think of India, or I don't think of Pakistan or Indonesia. I need to get this thing made. Where should I go? China. So when somebody thinks of something, they have to, your name has to come up number one in the list. That's branding. And simply, let's say you want a soft drink, Coca-Cola. People say, I need a Coke, but they go and drink a Pepsi, but they think of Coke. So branding is very important. So what I'm asking you to do is to think, what can we do to brand us in Sri Lanka? So learning from others, we in Sri Lanka must brand ourselves. So what can we do? And what should we do? This in mind is for us, can be done by reaching the pinnacle of education. Based on our resources, our talents, the manpower, what is it in our basket that we have that we can use to brand ourselves? Education. And we can, and we must become the education hub of Asia. Now I already see that happening at KDU with a large number of foreign students. In a few years, most of these students in Asia, and I believe some from Australia, and it won't be too long when the word gets around to United States, American students who pay $500,000 to become a doctor will spend a fraction of that, can come to KDU to become a doctor. So we can brand ourselves by creating Sri Lanka, the education hub. Provide an education parallel to none, practical, skill-based, well-rounded, innovation-capable, enterprise-directed, and ladies and gentlemen, uniquely purpose-driven.